by now, we should have those that are in front of the devices with their Bibles. As the story with David faces Goliath. David faces Goliath. The Israelites were still waging war in Philistine. The two armies were camped on opposite sides of the hills, with the valleys between them. Jesse, who was David's father, had 3 elder sons that were in Saul's army, and Jesse began to worry about them. David, he called out one day, "Go to the battlefront and see if your brothers are all right. Here's some fresh bread for them, and take these farm cheeses as a present for their officers. Be careful now and hurry back." When David arrived and went to look for his brothers, he found that both sides were lined up for battle. Suddenly, the noise and the chatter died down, and everyone was quiet. Then thunder of a mighty voice broke the stillness. David looked across the valley. The largest man he had ever seen was striding slowly toward him. He was fully armed for battle. In front of him walked another Philistine, dwarfed by this enormous shield that he was carrying for his master. "Come on, you Israelites," the huge man thundered. "Pick a champion to fight me. If he wins, we will serve you. But if I win, you will serve us as our slaves." Who does this think he is? Who does the man think he is? David asked. "That's Goliath," the soldiers explained so eagerly. "He comes out night and morning with that terrible challenge, and we're all terrified." Sure enough, the Israelite soldiers were shrinking away to their tents. David's brothers came across. "Now then, kid brother," Edelbiel began, "what do you think you're up to? You should be looking after those sheep of yours and minding your own business." "I'm only asking what has happened," David protested. "No one has any right to challenge God's people like that. Goliath is not stronger than our God." Someone told Saul about the young man who was talking so bravely, and so David was summoned to the king's tent. "Your Majesty," David said, "no one need fear the Philistine. I'll fight him." "You?" Saul said. "You're not much more than a lad. Goliath is a professional soldier. What makes you think you can win?" "God is on our side," David said. I may be young, but I have had good practice as a shepherd. With God's help, I have killed both lions and bears when they have attacked my sheep. God will help me now." "Very well," Saul agreed. "You shall fight Goliath, and may God go with you." And Saul looked David up and down. And then he said, "You must be properly protected." So Saul put his own bronze helmet on David's head and gave him his heavy coat of mail to put on. But when David had strapped on this big sword too, he could hardly move. "It's no good," David said. "I'm not a soldier, and I can't fight like one. I must use the weapons I know and trust." Saul watched uneasily as David ran down to a nearby stream and carefully chose 5 smooth pebbles from beneath the water. He put them in his bag and checked his leather sling. When he went forward to meet the Philistine champion carrying his shepherd's stick, Goliath advanced calling his challenge. But instead of the usual retreating figures of the terrified Israelites, he saw a man coming to meet him. When he made out David's slight, unarmed figure, he was filled with scorn and anger. "You fight against me with your sword and spear, in your great strength. David called out boldly, but I come in the name of our God. He is stronger than any champion. You have cursed him, but he will give me you in victory. So that's all I may know, but he is the true God. Then David ran toward Goliath. He took one pebble from his bag, fitted it into his sling, and with skill he slung it around his head and aimed eagerly. The stone fell deadly speed and hit Goliath in the middle of his forehead. Stunned, he fell to the ground. His huge body sprawled senselessly. David ran up, seized Goliath's own sword, and killed him with it. Their mighty champion was dead. The Philistines fled in terror from the battlefield. Remember, children, God is all-powerful and is in control of all things. And remember, when you're in trouble, you can always call on God.